Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, that deceiver, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, more specifically the elites, such as the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And these elites, just like the hopeful elect see the writing on the wall, the elites of the Edomites see the writing on the wall. These biblical prophecies are coming to pass, and the children of Israel are waking back up and calling upon their power. And whenever that happens, and also what? The prophets are out on the highways and byways preaching this word. And whenever these things happen, whatever heathen nation that's ruling at the time is going to be taken out of power. And that's what's about to happen to these Edomites. And these elites understand that once they're taken out of power, them and their entire nation will never rise up again. And they're going to go into 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery before they're permanently culled from this planet with fire. So these elites are getting ready to pull out all the stops to bring about their NW0, that great RESET, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and to try to avert biblical prophecy from coming to its fulfillment. And that thing you saw the other week with CrowdStrike was let's say it was a DRILL, because what happened? 911 went down, travel, mainly with airplanes, went down, banking in some countries went down, people couldn't process payments, etc., etc. A complete standstill in a lot of regards of this digital, internet connected world we live in. And what did Kay Tissue Schwab say a couple of years ago? That the next biggest threat humanity is facing is a cyber pandemic. And then also that company CrowdStrike, one of their investors is BlackRock, and already know what the deal is with that. So again, these elites are getting ready to pull out all the stops to throw this world into chaos so that they can bring that order out of it. And in this video, I'll be going into a little bit of this clip from Redacted to show that you've got cyber concerns on one hand and pestilence concerns on the other hand. When that devil comes down in great wrath, he's going to come at you people at all angles, from pestilence and health to, business and commerce, to the food supply, the supply chain, etc., etc. Remember, woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. But the title of this video is No One is Ready for What's Coming with Their New Pestilence Plans. It's going to be bad. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
All right, well, stop me if you heard this before. Government officials and Big Pharma are coming together to hold a big summit to warn us all about the coming pandemic. Sound familiar? Yes, it's happening all over again, and we've been covering this story for months here on this show.
And remember how destructive 2019 to 2021 was. A lot of people were wiped out, and a lot of people are barely hanging on right now. So if a similar event were to play out again, hey, that would be the final nail in the coffin for, the majority of people out here.
So this is not a surprise to us at all. Maybe it is to some of you watching for the first time. BARDA just granted $176 million to Moderna to accelerate their development of a bird flu vaccine. an emergency bird flu vaccine. Now, you'll recall Moderna never had a successful product ever come to market, ever, in the history of their company. The only time one of their products ever made it to market is because they got to sidestep trials on humans, basically, and use emergency use authorization during the pandemic and get us a COVID vaccine.
And again, it's worth reporting that the current bird flu we have now is not contagious from human to human, very rarely, right? Also, we have treatments. So what they're saying is that they are developing a vaccine in case it mutates.
And real quick, this video is not giving any medical advice or medical information. This is strictly for educational purposes.
How do they know what it's going to mutate to? It's their best
Wait,
guess.
This sounds like
Sounds
it's
familiar.
a playbook right out of the last thing we dealt with.
Yeah, seems familiar, right?
I mean,
okay,
and this
so
is not
what are they doing?
This is not a conspiracy theory at all. I mean, they're literally...
And what happened with the previous one? You saw a push for social spacing and contactless payments because the how do I want to put it? The Siona, who's 19, you know, they said it traveled on physical currency, so they had to take that out of the circulation, and then people had to go to contactless payments and these payment apps on your phone like Venmo, Cash App, Apple Pay, etc., etc. And that heavily pushed us that much closer to this digital society with these CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies. So imagine another event like that taking place on top of a major cyber incident globally that just knocks the entire system out. Lights go out, people's banking information goes out, they lose all their money, etc., etc. That would literally set everything, you know, back to zero, to where people would be scrambling and in panic for answers and how to get back on their feet. And look who happens to come riding on a black horse, you know, a diseased, a pale horse, as it were, with the answers. Oh, get this micro C-hip in you, and then we can, you know, put your lost money back onto it. All you got to do is get on the grid and listen to us. Get into these 15-minute cities, etc., etc. That great RESET, the perfect trap to get you people permanently locked into this system, to where, as it says in Revelation 13, verse 17, and that they may neither buy nor sell, travel abroad, get a job, do anything, save he that has the MARKOFTHEBEAST, or the name or the number of the beast.
doing it again, using emergency use authorization to push us a bird flu vaccine. As we reported before, the U.S. and European Union are also using emergency orders to order bird flu vaccines from the vaccine manufacturer CSL Seqirus, which is funded and advised, of course, by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
No
And they're about to
surprise
hold a
there.
massive bird flu summit in Washington, D.C. to plan how they're going to carry out this plan. We'll get to that part of the story in a second. But first, these are the same clowns that locked us up and told us to panic about COVID and preparing disease X right now in the next round of lockdowns. As Dr. Peter McCullough says, bird flu is their next pandemic, and they're trying to make us scared about it.
Well, do you think that the left could use the bird flu pandemic or something else, like the threat of something similar, to rerun the 2020 election?
There's no doubt about it. There will be a factitious food shortage. It doesn't need to happen. There's going to be an overplayed.
Hey, and what do the scriptures say? That there will be pestilences and famines in these last days. And whether it's the avian sneeze or something else, those things will happen. And that devil is coming down in great wrath to get you people, you know, with your backs against the corner. But hear what he said. There will be, you know, some pestilence coming, as well as a fictitious food shortage. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. And this is Yahushua, the Son of the Most High, speaking, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, telling his disciples of some of the signs to look for to know that they were living in the last days before his second coming. And as it says in Romans chapter 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. He was really speaking to his disciples who are living in these times. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, food shortages, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places, which are happening damn near daily. And with the avian sneeze, you've been hearing about millions of chickens and a lot of cows being deleted to try to stop the spread. So what's that going to mean? Less and less food going to these grocery stores and other establishments. 2 Esdras 6:22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. You know, these croplands where these farmers sow their seeds, which you've been having a lot of adverse weather events destroying farmers' abilities to plant a sufficient amount of crops. And then you've been having the government, you know, threaten these farmers if, you know, threaten them by taking away their livelihoods and special, you know, subsidies and other government benefits they get if they don't intentionally destroy their crops. So that's just going to further fuel this manufactured food shortage that's coming. The full storehouses, grocery stores, your Rouses, your Walmarts, your Aldis, Publix, whatever you have around you, shall suddenly be found empty. And these the culling of these animals, you know, adverse weather events destroying crops, and then just the elites messing with the supply chain is going to lead to what? These full storehouses suddenly being found empty. And we saw that again during 2019 to 2021 with the disruptions. There were empty store shelves and heavy shortages on things. You could still get stuff, but people were already getting violent. I remember seeing a video where two men were fighting over the last case of water, and one man ended up stabbing another man. Imagine now when these elites really pull that trigger on them bringing this chaos. Again, woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea.
Threat to both human and veterinary health. I can tell you, we haven't had a single death in the United States in a person from bird flu. It's probably been around for over 100 years, as indicated in a review by Lysette and colleagues. The current strain of bird flu is not much of a threat to animals. We don't see large number of migratory water birds dead. We haven't seen large numbers of poultry or cattle that have actually died of the disease. So we need to stop intentionally culling or killing healthy animals, which is being promoted by agriculture directors. We need to stop mass PCR testing of the animals by government officials. That doesn't need to happen. And then in no circumstances should we vaccinate the animals or humans for bird flu.
So don't fall for it, is what Dr. Peter McCullough is saying, but that's why they're holding this massive bird flu summit in Washington, D.C., set for early October. Thanks to Cambry for alerting to us on Twitter, by the way. Here.
And what happens in November after October, the presidential elections, which you got a lot of people speculating that we might not even have any. So is something brewing to throw the system into chaos? And remember what happened during the 2020 presidential elections. 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
It's the 3-day bird flu summit. And guys, this is not some conspiracy theory, okay? We're going to show you the actual summit website and their actual sessions that they're holding. So this is their website, the International Bird Flu Summit. As I was working on the story, my son said, "What is a summit? Why are they holding a bird flu summit?" And I said, "Well,
Money.
It's a great question. They're charging a lot to go to it, by the way. And you can see all the different speakers that are showing up to the bird flu summit. And then I'm going to show you the breakout sessions here. So it's a 3-day event where you can go to different events and different breakout sessions. I think they have over 20 different breakout sessions. So let's take a look here on your screen. Preparedness in birds, in cattle, prevention and recovery detection in pets and in people, and response in people. So let's go down here and you scroll down on their website. You can all download this if you guys want to and take a look for yourselves. Again, not a conspiracy theory. It's on their website. Here's the first breakout session: mass fatality management planning. So we're all going to die.
That's positive.
How do we handle that? Direct fatality management tactical operations. You know, when all the bodies start piling up, I'm going to go to that breakout session. Activate fatality management operations. Conduct morgue
there's not even
operations.
the word prevention. It's like when that happens.
Yes, when it happens.
How do we manage it?
And however it plays out, it will play out according to biblical prophecy. The devil is coming down in great wrath, and ultimately, this is the judgment of the Lord to judge you people for the wickedness you've been committing on this planet. Was it saying 2 Esdras 8:50? For in the latter days, many great miseries shall come upon them that have walked in great pride. And especially in the United States of America, everybody's walking around in great pride and selfishness. But this is 2 Esdras chapter 16. I'm going to start at 17. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, mass, fatalities, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, pestilences, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, scourges for correction, scourges for punishment, scourges for judgment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. You have the men of the Lord prophesying out here, and you're seeing biblical prophecy take place right before your very eyes. But for the majority of people, they still want to live their wicked lives. And we especially saw this after, 2019 to 2021. People were scared and didn't know what was going on and were looking for answers. And, a lot of brothers whose friends and family members knew that they were in the truth were asking them, 101 questions. But after things started going back to normal, what? They started not taking heed and scoffing again. Hey, the Most High remembers that. And that could have been your very last chance to what? Find a place of repentance and be saved. Verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And we can clearly see that these victuals, this food, these goods, these creature comforts, they're not so cheap anymore. With inflation, which is going to lead to hyperinflation. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Mass fatalities during these food shortages. Hey, a lot of people are gonna die, and if you manage to escape that, what? You might get killed in civil unrest or martial law, which is coming. You might get drafted to go fight in World War III and die. Think of any scenario, and the Most High is gonna surprise you. And it says famine and sword, but you can throw those pestilences, those plagues in there as well. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. Hey, just so many dead bodies that what? Too many to bury. And people are going to become so emotionally cold out here to seeing so much death that they're just going to step over those dead bodies and not give it a second thought. Like they don't give a second thought to that turd that they flush down the toilet. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down.
How do we go to the morgue? Continue here. I love this. The continuity of government planning. When half the government dies, What do we do about it? Let's go to that session. Strategies for operating with 50% or more absenteeism. So when half the Senate dies, half the House of Representatives die, what do we do about it? Let's go to that session. Or session number 3, business continuity planning. How do we handle making sure that businesses don't collapse and ensure safe travel policies, decision making for reducing or closing operations. And my favorite, though, of course, is here at the bottom on your screen, implementing remote work policies and flexible schedule. So yes, remote work, of course. Remote work policies and resource allocation for employees and customer protection.
Of course, when I see safe travel, you know that means no travel. They don't want you to travel.
They don't want you to travel at all, right? They don't want you getting on an airplane or anything.
Do you remember Event 201? Remember we covered that? Like where it was a simulation? Like this is like a printout, a PDF printout of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, look, we've covered bird flu. We've been talking about this for weeks now. And so if actually they had good intentions about making sure that bird flu was safe, well, we know we've talked to several doctors here on this show that said if you let this play out, then the animal population will kind of adapt to it. And as it stands now, it should not mutate to become transmissible between humans. We should leave it be. We should not, as Dr. McCullough said, be mass culling and mass testing animals in anticipation of this, because it indicates to us that that could be a gain of function manipulation, right? So
that statement she just said, a G of F, that's something to think about. And what's not to say that this apple juice that a lot of people drink, you know, over the last couple of years isn't going to lead to adverse effects, which they'll blame on the avian sneeze or anything else. But now I'm gonna jump to the 10-minute and 18-second mark.
Clayton.
Okay. And so among your breakout sessions are sessions about controlling the population, civil unrest. Is there a concern that Americans or Europeans might become upset or unrestful if in fact they are told to stay in their homes? You have another session that specifically focuses on remote work. So
that was in that event paper they were going through, talking about the possibility of civil unrest. And you know, as those last L downs came to an end, a lot of people were starting to protest them. And you know, people aren't going to go for it a second time. So say they take this route, expect to see civil unrest. And then, you know, with them running their algorithms, they could see they see that as a possibility. So what? That means that the response they would need to come with would be that much more terrifying to get these people to, you know, fall back in line and believe their narrative. And then on another kick, what do you have? This recent situation with Donald J. Trump, which is just further, you know, fomenting this civil unrest, seditious spirit out here. But ultimately, again, it's a part of biblical prophecy that things like that will take place. However, you know, it forms. But this is 2 Esdras chapter 15. I'm going to read verses 15 to 17. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, civil unrest, civil war, whether it be people fighting the government mandates, people fighting each other in race wars, you know, class warfare, people fighting each other to survive because of food shortages, etc., etc. For there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. Remember, back in that avian sneeze packet, they're talking about the possibility of civil unrest due to people not wanting to go along with the mandates and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, And your modern day kings and princes are these people in the government, from the mayor, the governors, the senators, the president, the prime ministers, as well as the authorities like the military or the police that uphold the system. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. People are going to get it how they live in that day. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And what does that sound like? A L down, whether it be from a pestilence, whether these cities get locked down because there's a major cyber attack that knocks down the entire system and leads to a state of martial law being instituted, etc., etc. As we can clearly see, these biblical prophecies, as the elder brother Malcolm of Chicago likes to say, are jumping off the pages. And Apostle Tahar is deemed 2024 to be the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And we still got about a half a year left before 2025. And it's going to keep getting more and more exciting as we get closer and closer to the end of all things and the second coming of Yahawashi. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.